Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight in game as well. In these videos I like to use your suggestions for monsters that you'd like to see me draw and hear me talk about, and today's video is absolutely no different. Today we're going to be covering the topic of Griffins, something that I've been eager to draw and talk about because they have a lot of real-world influences and mythology. I mean, everyone's heard of a Griffin, and today's suggestion of Griffins actually comes from a Griffin. The first suggestion of today's creature actually came about a year ago from someone named Griffin Crump, who's obviously not biased at all about their suggestion. But thank you for your suggestion, Griffin. Because of you, we get to cover today's topic. Now, if, like Griffin, you have a suggestion for a monster you'd like to hear me talk about or see my interpretation of as an illustrator, make sure to leave that down below in the comments section, because I take every single one of your suggestions, no matter where it came from, even if it's not in D&D, even if it's just a mythological creature that you'd like to be able to use in D&D. And I bundle up all of those suggestions, and then I add them to my to-draw list, which I hand over to my patrons every single month, and they vote on which ones of your suggestions we get to see in what order. But anyway, that's all the faff out of the way. I think it's time to start talking about Griffins. So Griffins were first introduced through first edition's Monster Manual, which was released in 1977, but Griffins themselves are a truly ancient creature in terms of their history and our folklore and mythology. I'm sure you'll already know what a Griffin is, but on the off chance that you don't, they're a well-known legendary creature that resembles a lion with the head and wings, and also the talons of an eagle traditionally. The curvature of its hooked, predatory beak and its grasping talons gave it its traditional Greek name, derived from the word Griffos, literally meaning curved. But the actual origins of this creature are believed to be found in ancient Iranian or Egyptian mythology, where they were called Shirdals, or Shirdals, Shirdal, meaning lion eagle. And although they feature in hundreds and hundreds of different stories throughout history, we couldn't find one specifically that points to their exact origin, although it's widely believed that their first mention dates to around 3300 BCE in Hierakonpolis, or Susa, locations in modern-day Iran. A lot of early statues and motifs depicting griffins didn't include their wings, leading to a historian and folklorist, Adrienne Mayer, speculating that early ideas and images of griffins could have been inspired by the unearthing of Protoceratops fossils, or other beaked dinosaur fossils being uncovered in these regions. Whatever actually inspired these creatures, their image has become a staple feature in medieval legends and fantasy stories ever since. They're considered the absolute exemplars of nobility in mythology, with lions being considered the kings of beasts and eagles being the rulers of the sky. So their combined features have inspired many to don their likeness in insignias and flags and so on to display powerful rulership, strength, nobility, and courage. In terms of symbolism, griffins have also had an absolute ton projected onto them. In early Christian mythology, for example, apparently these creatures are a metaphor for the permanence of marriage and to express a distaste for the idea of remarriage, owing to medieval tales which show that griffins mate for life, and that if either partner dies, the other would continue for the rest of its life alone. Our good friend and source of hilarious alchemical lore, Pliny the Elder, also had something to chime in on this fact, and some of his insights would revolve around the life and biology of the majestic griffin. He states that they lay their eggs, their semi-feline eggs, in burrows, roughly at ground level, but if you search beneath one of these nests, you're always going to find nuggets of gold. Partially because of this, their eggs became really sought after, but not just because of the gold beneath. It's also believed that their shells and their feathers are said to have various medicinal properties, including the ability to restore sight to the blind. Their claws are also supposed to have healing properties, but the stories of these healing properties are a tiny bit more vague. As a result of these tall tales, ostrich eggs were often sold as griffin eggs, and antelope horns were usually ground down or filed and sold as the claws of griffins. Usually, both of these items would be combined in some capacity to form goblets, which were fashioned out of the two. and perhaps they would just be used as a gift, again exemplifying the properties of honour and courage and strength. But potentially there could also be some sort of healing item perhaps, something used in medicine. Now, none of these bizarre healing properties or their eggs sitting atop gold actually feature in their stat sheet, but in D&D they're still a pretty fun creature to encounter. They're a challenge rating 2 large monstrosity who reach 8 feet from back to tail and apparently have a wingspan of 25 feet. Their strength 18, 15 dexterity, creatures who have 16 con, and although traditionally being around the bestial range of intelligence at -4 and a -1 in charisma, they also have 13 wisdom, which seems unusually high. They have eagle-like hunting vision, granting them keen sight, an ability that allows them to have advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight, and they can make 2 ferocious attacks in a multi-attack per round, one with their beak and one with their claws. Their beaks deal 1d8 plus 4 piercing damage, and their claws, which I imagine is a double claw attack, deals 2d6 plus 4 slashing damage. So at challenge rating 2, these creatures are nothing to sniff at, but their real skill comes in their flight. They have a 30-foot galloping speed, but they have an 80-foot flying speed, so adventurers that are not prepared for a sky battle or to be chased by something that can move so incredibly fast and deals so much damage in one multi-attack are liable to be torn to shreds. It's definitely not an encounter where you want to be running away from this creature, because it will definitely catch up with you. And it's precisely their speed, and perhaps these exemplifying traits of honour and courage that they seem to represent, that causes a lot of adventurers to want to ride these beasts, to tame them as their mounts. And I see absolutely no problem with doing so, but the Monster Manual has some things to point out in that regard. Today's episode is one that both I and Joe have researched independently and have sort of amalgamated our ideas together. And Joe pointed this fact out to me. He says that interestingly, the Monster Manual tells us of their love of horse meat, but also mentions their love of hippogriffs as well. Hippogriffs are a creature for another day, I'm sure, but the TLDR is that very like griffins, they are half eagle and half horse. So he mentions that this is potentially cannibalism, if they eat them, I guess. He says, but it makes a clear distinction between these animals as to how easily they can be trained to be flying mounts, with hippogriffs being the most common and the most loyal after training, implying that while griffins would still be fiercely loyal and willing to fight to the death for their master, they might just swoop upon an unsuspecting horse to fulfill their ravenous appetite for horseflesh. And that the Monster Manual points out that a wise master ensures that a griffin remains satiated with other prey when passing through civilized lands. He mentions that the key distinction between the two seems to be made in the 4th edition Monster Manual, where griffins are known to lay eggs, which he mentions are often sold for 1,000 gold pieces, but hippogriffs actually give birth to live foals rather than eggs, so there's no need to be suspicious that some unscrupulous traveller is selling you a lesser beast, if they are indeed trying to sell you a griffin egg. It's a really interesting concept. In Britain, whenever lions are depicted, at least on royal insignia and military garb, they need to have all of their arms extended and lashing out to display their ferocity. It's known as the lion rampant, and similarly the griffin rampant can never have its wings folded, in Britain at least, as a testament to the fact that these creatures are never docile, that they are ferocious, that they are wild. And I like the fact that this is included in D&D's interpretation, that you can ride one, you can train one, you can become an ally with one, but the difference between a hippogriff and a griffin seems to be that a hippogriff would be more like a dog, something that you could welcome into your home and feel quite safe living among your family, whereas a griffin itself is more like trying to train a wolf. You could have a rapport with one of these creatures, train it and feel quite safe personally, but they are still a wild animal. That should give some kind of indication as to how a D&D town or city might react to one of your players bringing a griffin in to their village or something like that, into a civilized area. If you bring a dog into a tavern, everything's going to be fine, but if you drag a bear in there, people are going to move very sharpish out of that inn, or at least to the other side of the room, and have arms on their shields, just in case that thing loses control. Now, obviously you will have noticed by now that I am not going for the traditional eagle and lion hybrid that makes up your average griffin. This isn't out of some desperation to draw something different, it's just, everyone has seen a lion and eagle creature. Everyone knows what a griffin looks like. While I could have played with the colours a little bit, I wanted to have my own fun with this creature, as per usual, and I was reminded of one of my absolute favourite pieces of art in existence. There's an illustrator out there called Mel Tillery, who has created what they call trash griffins, which include a series of much smaller amalgams of different beasts to make bird quadrupeds, or something that's going to wander around on 4 legs, hunt, and also have wings, which I would highly recommend taking a look at. But they include things like a pigeon rat griffin, a sparrow mouse, a vulture possum, and a crow raccoon, among various others. I love this idea of griffins being a kind of amalgam of these two types of creature, not necessarily being set in stone that it has to be an eagle lion. That is possibly the kind of pedigree breed of these creatures, but the idea that you could have a pet that is any number of different types of griffin-like breed. They're definitely going to feature heavily in my campaign world. In my capital sort of Victorian city, I definitely imagine a lot of pigeon rats, or prat griffins? I don't know. I imagine those being absolutely everywhere, and plan to have quite a few quests actually related to these things, but I know my players watch these videos, so I'm not going to go into that in too much depth. Either way, trash griffins I absolutely adore, and opening up the possibilities of what a griffin could be really excited me. As you know, I really love vibrant colours, and I was inspired both by this illustration and actually by my honeymoon. On my honeymoon, my wife and I were constantly on the lookout while we were in Nashville for a red cardinal. We've been to Nashville a couple of times, we really love it. It's such a vibrant and colourful place, especially thanks to Hatch Show Print, the letterpress company that has been there for absolutely ages. But we went to go and visit Hatch Show Print, and on our way out one time, we saw a red cardinal in the wild, which may sound kind of dull to you guys, but in Britain, in the UK, most of the birds that we find are brown, white, grey, black, very desaturated colours. We're both illustrators, and to see something so vibrant and so colourful in nature is exotic to us. It's really exciting. So it was a really cherished memory in my absolute favourite place with my favourite person, seeing such a beautiful wild creature. So I wanted to include a red cardinal in my illustration today, and it just so happens to be a creature which approaches on the same colour scheme and is a ferocious predator. So I've mixed a tiger in with my red cardinal here today, and I'm really pleased with the result. I think this looks really fun, and I thought I'd also include a couple of little cubs, or chicks, chugs? I don't know what you'd call the young of a griffin actually, but I thought I'd include a couple of them there as well, because this was a family experience for me, so I thought I'd include a little family there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I really loved drawing this creature. I love doing a bit of research on it, but again, thank you to Joe Gilday, who did the majority of the research for today's video. You've really helped me out while I have been lounging around in my own apathetic bubble in the middle of this COVID-19 lockdown. If you enjoyed today's video as well, please make sure to leave it a like down below, perhaps favourite this video and share it with your DM or the rest of your group, so hopefully they could expand what Griffins can do. Maybe expand the implications of Griffins. Maybe you don't want to have all these exotic types of Griffins, different Griffin breeds, and pigeon rats and sparrow mouses and so on, little trash Griffins throughout your campaign. But maybe your DM might find it useful to know that there could be gold underneath the nests of Griffins, or maybe that various parts of them have healing properties, so perhaps there could be a few more quests involved in there. Everything you can do to get the word out about the Arcane Forge really helps us grow, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for your help. If you really want to help us to grow and you want to help this channel out, then please make sure to hit the subscribe button as well. I have a few videos planned for the next couple of Fridays if I can edit those up and get them out to you guys as well, so I'd hate for you to miss when some off-schedule videos go live, and if you're subscribed then you get notified whenever I have extra videos for you in a month. But anyway, until next time, keep an eye out in the skies for the savage griffin. Try and befriend one, but definitely don't bring it into your local tavern, unless you want to be kicked out rather sharpish. Maybe train up that hippogriff instead, and happy monster hunting.